you've seen this year, inflation's through the roof, and the government, is forced to raise interest rates all around the world.
Yeah. Well, it's only logical, right? Like we can't keep increasing all the time without any stopgaps or any way to.
It was always going to happen at some point.
People are like, oh, the economy has to keep going. It's like, fuck, man. At some point, it's got to slow down, and you can't always exponentially increase.
That quantitative easing question that you talked about before that somebody was going to ask was.
Do you want me to read it out?
Yeah, read it out. Yeah.
It says, do you think the US stock market will crash, or do you think there will be more quantitative easing from devs?
Yeah, well, I mean, during 2020 COVID, they printed a lot of money through stimulus checks, through just buying bonds and equities. They inflated the asset market essentially.
And printing money is not good because it's not backed by any gold.
No,
right?
So it used to be that all money was backed by gold, right?
Yeah.
So there was a finite supply of money almost because there was a finite supply of gold.
Yeah.
And then they went off that method in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Now central banks think it's okay to increase the money supply in certain times, in certain conditions.
Whenever it helps them.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I'm not going to sit here and say that we shouldn't have gotten paid stimmy checks and that kind of stuff during COVID. A lot of people needed it, and all those all those things that they did to pay for people's wages really helped a lot of people. So, but one of the unintended consequences of that is that there's a lot more money sloshing around in the system, and when you get a supply shortage that we're having now, where microchips are in short supply and battery minerals are in short supply, and
even toilet paper.
Yeah, all this kind
everything
of stuff.
That we want.
Everything that goes into building everything we like is in short supply, and you've got more money and less things. Things go up in price, and you saw it in cars.
So the cost of living increases.
And then oil was like the thing that no one saw coming was this Ukraine war, and the price of oil, shot up, and oil touches every product, right? Yeah. Like to make an iPhone, I wonder how much oil is in that.
Yeah.
Transporting things around, like literally.
Well, we spoke about it with, and specifically in the States, I think like a lot of their fertilizer comes from Russia, and then obviously the oil they use and whatnot. And so it all ends up going towards the food, and then the transportation to the suppliers and all that. So it's like a trickle down effect, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. So there was a huge inflation shock to everybody. Nobody really thought it would get this bad. In fact, last year there were signs of inflation, and everyone was saying it was transitory. It's going to go away. We're just going to work through these supply chain congestions, this shipping issues we've got, all this stuff. It's
head in the sand.
Yeah, and they were really slow to react.
Saving face? Like our decisions have created this.
They're not admitting it, but I think everybody knows that the Fed made a mistake and they were too slow to recognise inflation. And I'm talking about the American one, and I would say the Australian RBA here too has been very slow. Like New Zealand raising rates a few months before us, and it was pretty clear that the whole world was going to be experiencing the same kind of inflation.
Yeah. It's like if we ignore it, it's not happening.
Yeah,
and then you got to open your eyes.
Isn't that one of those situations where you spoke about this in regards to another topic, but like this is what the decisions we made at the time we felt were the right decisions, but now we need to reassess and pivot.
Yeah.
And because they don't want to admit that they maybe made a couple of errors, this has never happened before in every sort of aspect. They don't want to go backwards and make those decisions. And now we're actually suffering because of their lack of action.
Yeah, I'd agree with that entirely. Yeah. So, I mean, going back to
quantitative easing
was, I guess so. They did more QE than they've ever done in the last few years. I mean, I think they almost doubled the supply of money in the States over like 3 or 4 years, which is nuts.
Can't be good.
No, it's not. And that's one of the huge arguments for Bitcoin. And sadly, it doesn't trade like it should as a store of value. It's being treated like a risk asset now. And my theory on that is that we were like, as an industry, really wanting institutions to come in and take a position in Bitcoin and put it on their balance sheets. And that started to happen last year with Tesla and some of the other big companies. However, when you've got like professional finance people looking at an investment in Bitcoin, they're going to treat it like a risk asset, and they're going to put the same filters that they put over their current portfolio and say, if rates go up, we need to sell. Like we'll sell our tech and we'll sell our risk assets.
Is this leading towards, and this is where conspiracy theorists come into it, you hear the New World Order they always talk about, and the one world currency, the centralized currency, where everything gets so bad where they just have to completely fuck off the current financial system and go to this new one. They call it the Great Reset.
Yeah.
Is that where, are we literally either intentionally or unintentionally on path for that?
I'm going to just say that's above my pay grade.
Yeah.
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Like I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And part of the reason that I hold Bitcoin is for that eventuality.
Okay.
Like, if you just, it's like an insurance policy, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you had 1% of your wealth in Bitcoin and the Great Reset were to happen, that 1% will protect you completely.